Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely chilling historical mystery. We're looking at a medical enigma that quite literally swept the globe, leaving its victims suspended right at the absolute brink of death. It's a complex story about science, profound tragedy, and, well, a brief but miraculous awakening.
Now, I want you to imagine something truly terrifying for a second. Imagine being completely conscious, fully aware of everything going on around you, but you're frozen. Like a statue. You can't speak, you can't move, you're just forced to passively watch as the world and your own life simply passes you by. This wasn't just some bad nightmare. For hundreds of thousands of people back in the early 20th century, this was their waking reality.
The legendary neurologist Dr. Oliver Sacks actually hit the nail on the head here. He believed that to really grasp the sheer horror of a disease, we can't just look at clinical numbers on a page. We have to look at the human experience. We need to, as he put it, deepen the case history into a narrative. And honestly, that's exactly how we're going to unravel this mystery today.
Section 1. The Sleep of Statues. So, emerging right around 1915 and lasting until 1926, this disease was officially dubbed Encephalitis Lethargica, though it was often just called sleeping sickness. But let me tell you, this was absolutely no peaceful rest. Patients suffered from profound lethargy, spiking fevers, and catatonia. The onset was so sudden, it's wild. Individuals would literally fall into these coma-like states mid-bite, right at the dinner table. They were speechless, motionless, and yet underneath that frozen exterior, many of them were wide awake.
Clinical symptoms we're talking about were bizarre and incredibly severe. Beyond the fever and that coma-like state, which doctors called akinetic mutism, patients frequently suffered from ocular gyrate crises. Basically, these were severely abnormal, uncontrollable eye movements. And perhaps the most tragic part, it deeply affected children. Roughly a third of the kids who caught it experienced radical behavioral changes. Doctors back then described it as a moral insanity. These kids suffered from emotional instability, extreme impulsivity, and severe temper tantrums. It essentially stripped away their developing personalities.
Section 2. A forgotten global pandemic. First officially described by neurologists in Vienna and France in 1917, the outbreak definitely did not stay contained. Now, because World War I communications were a total mess, getting an exact toll is pretty elusive. However, conservative estimates suggest that well over 1 million people contracted this worldwide. The virulence really peaks between late 1918 and early 1919.
And the absolutely crucial point here is that this disease was incredibly lethal. Encephalitis lethargica directly caused over 500,000 deaths. To put that into perspective, that is a staggering mortality rate of roughly 33%. And for the vast majority of those who actually survived the initial onslaught, well, they never fully recovered their previous vigor or health.
Section 3. Managing the public panic.
Imagine being in a world already reeling from the devastation of World War I and the 1918 Spanish influenza. Throwing this mysterious sleeping sickness into the mix ignited some intense social anxiety. Local newspapers and public health bulletins went into absolute overdrive. Their goal was twofold: educate the public while simultaneously scrambling to downplay the severity to prevent mass panic. Because the scary truth was, behind closed doors, scientists had absolutely no idea what was causing it.
To calm everybody down, officials pushed these theories that allowed citizens to essentially distance themselves from the threat psychologically. Newspapers blamed gas poisoning from the war, alcoholism, or, and this one is bizarre, botulism from canned spinach and olives. Others claimed it only attacked the physically weak. It's a classic human defense mechanism, right? Blaming the illness on bad choices or canned vegetables just to give the public a false, comforting sense of security.
Section 4. The Miracle of Awakenings.
So, the pandemic mysteriously faded away in the late 1920s, but for the survivors, the nightmare kept going. Thousands remained locked in institutions, basically frozen for decades. Enter Dr. Oliver Sacks. In 1967, Sacks noticed some striking similarities between these forgotten post-encephalitic patients and those with severe Parkinson's disease. So he decided to administer an experimental synthetic dopamine called L-Dopa in a meticulously observed clinical trial.
The results were honestly nothing short of cinematic. In fact, you might know that this trial actually inspired the famous book and movie Awakenings. The effect of the L-Dopa was literally like flipping a switch. Patients who had been entirely frozen, just staring blankly for decades, were suddenly awake. They were getting out of their chairs, walking, talking, dancing, laughing at jokes. After all that time, they were suddenly vividly alive again.
But this massive triumph brought a truly devastating revelation. As these patients finally began to speak, it became horrifyingly clear. Their minds had remained perfectly intact the entire time. For 30 or 40 years, they were fully aware. They were just trapped in a broken neurological shell, silently watching their lives pass them by.
Heartbreakingly, the miracle just didn't last. As Dr. Sachs detailed in his extensive case histories, the patients quickly developed severe, totally unpredictable sensitivities to the L-DOPA. They had to walk this incredibly fine razor's edge with the dosage. If they gave too much, the patients suffered massive, bizarre tics or manic states. But if they gave too little, they'd slip right back into their frozen, unresponsive shells. For so many of them, that amazing window of awakening eventually just closed right back up.
Section 5. An enduring medical mystery.
Even today, the exact biological trigger of this whole nightmare remains one of the greatest unsolved medical riddles of the 20th century. A century of intense debate has given us some fascinating theories, sure, but still no absolute consensus. Initially, it was blamed on the 1918 Spanish flu, but that link is now considered mostly circumstantial. In 2004, an autoimmune response to a strep infection was proposed. And then in 2012, researchers analyzing preserved brain tissue from 1918 found evidence of enterovirus inclusions, which opened up a compelling new frontier. Now, while the debate between a rogue autoimmune disorder and a direct viral invasion is still being actively studied, that enterovirus theory is currently a very strong contender. In fact, back in 2012, Oliver Sacks himself actually wrote a letter acknowledging the enterovirus findings as the highly probable cause of the devastating disease that he spent so much of his life documenting.
As Dr. Sachs so beautifully reminds us through his life's work, medicine isn't just about pathology, brain tissue, and viruses. It is fundamentally about deeply understanding the subjective human experience. These patients weren't just medical anomalies. They were human beings with rich inner lives who suffered in profound silence, and they absolutely deserve our empathy and our relentless curiosity.
Which leaves us with this final, haunting thought. With cases of encephalitis lethargica still occasionally, sporadically popping up today, we really have to ask ourselves, if this forgotten pandemic suddenly reawakened tomorrow and swept the globe all over again, would modern medicine actually have the answers to stop it? It's the kind of question that definitely keeps neurologists awake at night. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and keep learning.